Welcome back to Tales of Yvlard. We are a Mythcraft TTRPG podcast, and this is our first campaign with C's Tale. I am Corey Griffin, and I will be our MC. Today, we'll be continuing our series of prologues. With me today, I have Cobi.
Hello, my name is Cobi. I'll be playing today Lez She'horn, the storyteller.
Our tale is going to begin on Epeth, in the Grove of Stories. Rather fitting, don't you think? We are actually going to rewind time quite a bit. It is 17 years ago. You're 5, I believe. What does life look like for Lez when he's 5?
So the Grove of Stories is very much so a village that we're passed around as anybody needs help with something, I would help them and hear some stories. Nights would be sitting around a campfire in grandfather's lap. Grandpa would always tell great stories of his adventures. Kind of just a beautiful life of, going through the motions.
So when you're 5, there is a slight change in what happens, right? So normally, if whoever you're kind of hanging out with at the time, whoever's taking care of you, goes outside the village, well, they used to just take you along with them. There was nothing to stop that from happening. However, at one point, this stopped happening.
Okay.
Anytime that someone, when you're 5, it stops. And you also take notice of another one of the young satyrs, just a little bit older than you, like 8 years old. You no longer see her around. At the moment, you are with Rose, who is another satyr. She does have a tendency, every time you're with her, will give you sweets.
Okay.
Of whatever kind she has made, as she, for the most part, makes the sweets for the entire village. I don't know. How does Lez feel about his time with Rose?
Lez has probably a sweet tooth, so I imagine him sitting by the counters, tapping happily as he sees the treats being made, watching the doughs being put together with lots of fresh berries, probably sneaking over a few. Rose definitely sees him grabbing them and just lets it go by. Yeah, just is always excited to see Rose and get some sweets.
While you are there, Florist Chamberlain comes in. So, Florist Chamberlain, while he does come from the Grove and to the Grove very frequently, he is mostly a merchant and tends to have some tales of the outside world. He comes in and Rose is like, do you have any news of Willow? And Florist is like, at the moment, I do not. I have been asking around in my travels. No one has seen a lost satyr. Rose continues with, we haven't seen them in a long time. And it's been... I'm scared for her, because a child in the woods for a week now, that's not good. I know. And I am sure we will find her. It will all be okay.
And I'm in earshot of this.
Yeah. You are kneading dough at the moment.
I act like I can't hear it and just like I'm really paying attention to the dough, but ears are up perked and I'm listening and trying to get as much of this as I can. I'm a very intuitive child. I like to hear the stories, real or fake.
He sees you, and Florist is like, hello, little one. Hello, how are you doing? Are you enjoying your time in the Grove right now?
I love my time in the Grove. Anytime I'm with Rose, I get good treats and I get to knead dough and it's just a good time, I do miss going on walks outside and all that, but I still have fun here.
Yes, yes, yes. I am hoping that sometime soon you'll be able to go on your walks again. I think I have a new story for you.
I love stories. Please, please, please.
Rose lets out a dejected sigh, knowing that this was happening.
Yeah, I see Les probably has already forgotten about the dough, has brushed the flour all over his satyr legs, so his legs are just covered in flour, and he's right at Florence's story.
All right. High up in the air, far above the sky and the land, even above the tallest of mountains that cover our wonderful world. There twists and turns a series of 4 islands floating around. Sometimes on a very clear day, if you're outside of the grove, you can see these from time to time. The story that we're going to tell today, I read in a manuscript deep in Artith. I have... Obviously, it is a story. And he says, what I read says, once, long ago, a powerful mage and his companions. The name in the book just said Farron the Great, but I don't know, because I have heard other stories of Farron, and this doesn't quite line up with what I have heard of him.
Interesting.
So, once, long ago, Farron the Great and his companions fought back against the evils of demons and devils. And once they had combated them across the globe, forcing them onto 4 small islands, he and his companions rose those islands up from the world, pushing it into the sky so that they could never again be on our lands.
How'd they do that?
That is a question, is it not? I have yet to see someone so powerful that they could move islands, let alone 4 of them for what could be millennia after their death.
I'll be able to do that one day.
Perhaps, little one, perhaps. He kind of pats the top of your head, and he says, that is the new story that I have for you today.
I love it. I'll add it to my list of stories. I imagine Les probably, at this point, because probably not great at actually writing it, he has a little bit of stack of notes that he keeps that are just drawings of stories he hears that are very crude. So he has a 4 rocks in the sky with some guy's little horns on it, and then a dude with a wizard hat and just a staff, and they're all floating. He's like, boom, story.
Nice, I love it. Farron continues and says, I do hope that one day, maybe, you could find out the truth of what happened. Though, to continue the story, it is said that if the Isles of Y ever touch down, a great calamity will occur.
What's a calamity?
Bad things happening to many people.
Bad thing.
Again, bad things still tell good stories.
Very true. I remember Grandpa telling a story about how he almost lost his tail that was really funny, and that was almost a really bad thing.
Was it the one with the rolling log and the...
Yeah, that one. And I pulled up a drawing of it. This one right here, that one.
Yes, it is one of his favorites. Once again, he pats the top of your head as he says, I do believe that dough there still needs a bit more mixing.
Completely had forgotten about it. It's that child distraught, or how did I forget? I was doing that. Runs back over, is kneading back to it, trying to make sure it didn't get dry, is acting super hyper focused. I can't mess up the dough. I want good treats.
It's actually 7 years later. You are 13.
Oh yeah, teenager.
And you're with Pop, Old Man Reginald. Your mother actually pops in, Fern. While it takes a village, you do still most of the time sleep in Fern's house.
Yeah, okay.
So Fern comes in and is like, Pop, there's a situation. We have a new face and possibly an old one. Pop's just like, huh? What?
Okay, am I like kind of in on things that are happening in the village a little more at this point?
You're as aware as a 13-year-old would be. Relatively aware, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think, once again, they'll just love listening to any story, real or fake. Ears would pip up, trying to gather some info on it.
Right. And she's, your mother, Fern, says, we need you down at the, we need you down, we need you to come with us to the entrance of the grove. Someone is seeking aid. And he's like, eggs? What do we need eggs for? No, aid. And then Pop's like, oh, why didn't you say that first?
She did, Grandpop. She did.
Oh. But you gotta speak up. I'm hard of hearing at the moment. And he gets up and starts to leave. Are you gonna follow?
Yeah, I definitely would follow behind quickly, even if they didn't want me to. I'm instantly right, but before Grandpa's probably up, I'm up helping him up so we can get out and go.
Okay. So you make your way through the village. And at the entrance of the grove, you see a bunch of satyrs have come out. And at the entrance of the grove, you see 3 people. You see a snow leopard Katek. You see a massive giant of an urcow. And you see a satyr. The satyr is very familiar. Intellect check, if you don't mind. See if you know it before someone says it.
While we're perceiving, oh no, that's not intellect. Never mind.
With a 19, this is Willow. It's been 7 years, but this is Willow.
I would just burst out, Willow, and I'd probably try to start scampering through the crowd, holding Grandpa's hands.
As you look at Willow, she doesn't look great. This giant urcow just looks at you all and says, My job is done. I was asked to return the satyr to her home. Goodbye. As this large urcow just kind of turns around and starts walking off, not really caring what anyone has to say.
Am I able to get to the front of the crowd with Grandpa at this point, or am I still kind of in the back?
I mean, you're probably breaking the crowd as the urcow is saying this. This giant 7'2" bear person.
And Willow just on the ground right now, kind of or just sitting there.
Yep, they were kind of sitting there, but then they stood up, and they're like, I have much more business to attend to in other places. And then he would look to Willow and this Katek. If you ever need help, remember to look for Bodvar.
What was that name again?
Bodvar.
Yeah, I think if I'm ever trying to break through the cloud, I would just go to Willow's side and see if they're okay, and see if my mother has followed behind us at this point. I think I'm more worried about Willow than the bear at that point.
A lot of the crowd is giving the bear thank yous and is there anything that we can do for you? And the bear is very much no. Let me out of here. I have to return home. I have been gone long enough. I need to go.
Am I able to look to see if the Ketek is okay?
The Ketek is not leaving. It is just the Urkow that is leaving. As you take a look at Willow and the Ketek, you notice some strange idiosyncrasies that you're very much not used to. Every time that someone talks to one of them, they turn their entire body to fully face that person, but they never actually look at look anyone in the eyes.
Okay.
There's a few other small things. You notice that Willow and the Ketek are both kind of grasping their hands in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
Willow looks scared, but also elated. And the Ketek, she'll say, if you all don't mind, I wanted to get Willow back here because she always told stories about this place. But I don't really have anywhere to go. Willow speaks up at this point and says, If it weren't for her, I wouldn't be here. If we don't help her, I'm leaving. That takes everyone off guard. Like,
at that point, I'm kind of just gonna let the crowd do what it does and just watch what Mom does.
Right. I mean, your mom doesn't have like a particular reaction one way or another. However, Rose does.
Okay.
Rose is just like, absolutely. You will come. You will stay with me. Absolutely. You have brought our Willow back to us. The Ketek, again, turning completely to face her, is like, I very much appreciate it. Willow's stories got us through a very, very hard time. Rose leads Willow and the Ketek back to her house. And then you remember, just as you are Fern's child, Willow is Rose's.
Damn, that's crazy.
As the crowd starts talking excitedly, like a child has returned. A child that they thought dead had returned.
Yeah.
Because it's been 7 years since anyone's seen Willow. And as quick as that Urkow left, people are quite considerate on like, what happened? Maybe we'll get this story. And they can't wait for the dinner, which a lot of times the entire village will eat together.
Yeah, share stories.
This is a day, I mean, everyone is extremely happy. What kind of things are at dinner tonight?
For once, we're lacking some sweets at the table because Rose is with Willow. So everybody else kind of pitched in. So it's the sweet section's looking a little different than it normally would. Kind of some different changes there. But I see a big feast of lots of just like tarts. There's lots of like bountiful harvest, like lots of corns and like veggie salads, and everything is really like homegrown. There's obviously some like small poultry dishes and stuff. And when I say small, it's like the chickens themselves are small and they're growing around here, but there's lots of them. Everybody's getting their own freaking chicken pretty much. It's a joyous feast. There's probably someone making like luau necklaces at the end of the table and they're passing them out. And there's dancers going off with fire and fireworks. Magic of stories are being told around this table for sure.
The food gets passed around and just the joy is almost infectious until you look at Willow. When you look at Willow almost looks uncomfortable. And the Ketek, it seems absolutely terrified.
And I noticed this.
Yeah.
Am I able to like try to start a little side conversation with them?
Absolutely. What would you like to say?
Lean over to Willow. I'm assuming we had like probably some small interactions with how much I was at Rose's.
Oh, definitely. Like I said, this was the only children around your age when she went missing.
Okay, I go over, make my way, lean over, and Willow, it's really great to see you. It's been so long. I hope it wasn't too hard for you, and I know it's a lot to be back around these folks. They are wild even when you're here every night.
I kind of imagine you like lean down to talk to her and like talk to her in her ear. She jumps, and then again, her entire body turns as you're talking to her.
I would probably be very taken aback by that. That's not something I've ever really used to, and I apologize.
She says, and this absolutely floors you that she's even starting to stutter because she just like you guys are trained in the spoken word. Like, this is
Mhm.
something almost everyone in your village is a storyteller of some kind. Everyone
Yeah.
tells stories. So her stuttering is almost mind-blowing for you, because that definitely wasn't
Yeah.
something that happened before. And she says, it is good to see you again, Lesh. It is good to see you. I have missed this place. Though I definitely forgot how much of an affair dinner was.
I think at that point, I'd probably have sat down next to them. I have probably have multiple necklaces on. Will probably haven't had any. I would take the 2 extra I have off and gently just place them down. Like if you want to join a little festivity, so you don't have someone come put them around your neck while you're not paying attention, I would put these on, and then just go. Not go to, but turn to the table and grab a pastry and be like, I know Rose was probably busy talking to you and these aren't the same, but the sweets in this village, they are delectable. I recommend getting to try them again. And then I would eat and just kind of let them sit with the festivities for a second.
I think Willow does take one of them. And there's a bit of a conversation between Willow and the Katek. And Willow's like, Arya, it's okay. Just put it on. Then no one here is going to touch you if you don't want it. Just put this on so that they know that you're okay.
Yeah, overhearing that, I would probably just pipe in. I know stupid traditions and overwhelming family stories can be a lot, but just trying to save a little bit of trouble.
The Katek, who you now know their name is Arya, because Willow said it, Arya just puts it around her head. And what color are these?
I say probably lots of green actual leaves and a few red flowers, and then purple dyed beads. They use a lot of the berries to color it.
That sounds freaking epic. Against her white fur, this really pops. Though it might be slightly clashing with her bluish eyes.
This is probably the first time Les has actually really truly looked at the Katek fully and is like, okay.
And so dinner continues on as dinner does. The dishes get passed around. Some people will take a little bit from multiple different chicken dishes. There is one particular dish that almost everyone just passes around. And it happens almost every night that Fern makes these mushroom and leek sauteed together with a little bit of wild garlic. It's not the favorite dish, as you can tell.
Les probably loves it though. Just that home cooked meal that you have to eat every time. Huge helping of it on his plate. He's always so happy that there's so much when it gets to him.
And you pass it to Willow, and you notice Willow takes a little bit, and Willow passes it to Arya. You see her kind of sniff it, and she's been sniffing everything that comes by and passing it on to the next person. She has passed on almost everything, and she sniffs it, and this look of surprise almost crosses her face, but it surprise isn't quite perfectly right either. And she takes some and then passes it on. Even you, with your absolute love of this meal, know that it might be one of the most bland things at this table.
Yes.
It's also one of the only things that she has put on her plate.
Okay, so when I see that, I would probably look over and be like, mushrooms and a leek. It may look meek and the favor's bleak, but it's tasty.
She almost chuckles at that little rhyme. Then she realizes what she's doing, and then her face entirely blanks, like she's trying not to have a reaction. And then she's like, it smells familiar. Everything else smells strange.
Strange is a great word to describe lots of this grove of stories.
I am coming to understand that.
When strange becomes your new normal, I tell you, it does become a lot of fun.
Honestly, I'm just trying to figure out what normal is.
He would ponder that a little bit, because it definitely makes him think a little bit about how different life can be outside of the grove.
Again, you've never left the grove for more than a walk. You would notice that as long as you're standing over there and like trying to talk to the Katek, she does not eat. If anyone talks to Willow, Willow stops whatever she's doing and gives them their full attention.
Okay.
But if people leave them alone, you do take notice they eat incredibly fast.
Okay.
At the end of the dinner, Reginald kind of stands up at his end of the table and he says, "We gather here today, welcoming home one of our lost. And it seems that one of our lost was both brought home and brought home someone that has helped them through their time. I am so glad to see you all returned and living. It was a sad day when we thought we lost our Willow. The entire village mourned you, my child, and we have missed you every single day since you left." And Willow speaks up and is like, "I never left. I was taken." And as soon as that last word is said, there is an absolute uproar from everyone in the village. It's everyone starts asking questions, everyone starts talking over each other, everyone just kind of explodes in this cacophony of sound. And you take notice that Willow kind of flinches at this sound. Arya seems to almost try to hide within herself.
Can I try to throw like a pastry at Grandpop to like pretty much get attention and be like, shut everybody up?
I like it. Roll me a dexterity. Because I want to see how well you hit this thing.
There we go. Oh, great.
You throw. Oh my god. Okay.
Oh god. That's a 2 for your listeners. That's a 2 there.
You throw this pastry. It doesn't quite make it to Grandpa. It does, however, land in like this. It's almost like a sweetened berry soup that you guys normally eat for like a dessert of some kind. And then it splashes all out of the bowl and onto the table, covering like splatters shooting out to the people on either end of the that are on either side of the table by that. And like everyone's quiet for a moment. Everyone's just kind of looking at you like, what just happened?
The pastry was kind of dry.
And the people who now have little bits of this sweetened berry soup on their face are just like, what? Reginald is just like, we would like to hear your story if you are comfortable sharing it. And then everyone looks to Willow and Arya. I'm not even going to ask for a roll for this. They are terrified.
Mm-hmm.
Willow starts to shake her head. Arya puts her hand down on the table and speaks. We were captured. We were both captured by the same man. His name was Kamsha Sarkle. Then we were sold to Agnes Windwalker, who then took us to an island called Terre, and then we were sold, and then we were saved by this other Urkal person, and then Lodvar helped us come back. And then obviously there are hundreds of questions being thrown at her again, almost flinches at all of the attention.
I want to stand up and kind of just take 2 tankards and like clink them together, one at a time, please.
Obviously, when you slam the tankards together, you do see that Willow and Arya both jump because loud noise.
Yep.
It gets everyone's attention. You hear some murmurs of agreement from around the table. Your pop says, perhaps that will be all that we ask of them today. It seems like they have had a very, very trying time. And while stories are very important for all of us to know what is going on and for moving forward from the past, perhaps it would be best if we all told a story of what we have done since Willow was taken from us. And he goes into a story of it's not a very interesting story. He just has a story of like everydayness, right? Of
Can I try to like kind of kick in and start my own story then?
I mean, if you're gonna interrupt him, yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna interrupt him. Grandpa, your skills are not what they used to be. Let me help you with that. I'll tell you a story of my training. We were out in the woods and we were walking through the berry fields, and out of nowhere a bramble bush struck at us with its tendrils, and I was afraid for my life. I tried to run and I could not. They caught me by my ankle and pulled me close. It wasn't for Rose being there with me with her butcher knife chopping down this bush, I may have lost my tail just as Grandpa did once before me.
There is someone that does a single clap, which is very much a sign of respect.
Yeah.
To the process of the night. You think it might be Rose that did the clap.
I'm just like, thank you. Thanks, Rose.
But everyone has small stories that they tell.
Yeah.
As it goes around the table, you do take notice that Fern takes up telling a story so that it goes all the way around the table before it would get back to Arya. These stories go late into the night. I mean, there's 100 people around this massive table. The stars come out, the fire dies down. Right as the last person starts to tell their tale, Grandpa lets out a big old yawn, which everyone pretty well knows means what's gonna come next. He said, well, I believe this will be good for today. Perhaps when they are more comfortable, they can tell us more of their story. But for tonight, I do believe everyone can take their dishes home with them, and we will once again look forward to dinner tomorrow.
Les definitely piled on as many little tarts and sweet treats onto his plate before he heads home.
You head home, and the stories were not entertaining for you because they're all stories that you've heard before.
Yeah.
Most of the time during the story circle, you tell a story of the day. Even if it's benign, you tell a story of the day. This was definitely something to help Willow and Arya.
Les often gets a singular clap for telling kind of outrageous stories. Often he does it.
Yeah, I kind of agree. He gets that single clap very frequently. He is a very entertaining entertainer. He has taken well to doing what he's been doing. With that being said, you go home with Fern. And Fern has the big dish of mushrooms and leeks. It's like 65% full still.
Yep.
Like, obviously, other people did eat some of it. But with that being said, she leads you into your home, and then she will look to you and say, Lesh, I think tomorrow you're going to go work with Rose.
I would quietly nod.
I am proud of you for how you handled yourself today. Those girls, they're gonna need help, and maybe more than any of the rest of us. You definitely seemed to listen and watch for their needs and help them.
Thank you. I just tried to give them some of what the Grove gave me.
And she smiles and she hugs you. You go to bed. All right. Over the next couple years, you keep working with Willow and Arya. What kind of relationship grows between yourself, Arya, and Willow?
I think with the bond I have with Rose, I very quickly take to Willow as like the big sister I always wanted. Because like for a little bit when I was really young, she was like that big sister that would help me sneak treats with Rose and stuff, and that went away. So having her back around, I very quickly take to that. And though probably a little standoffish at first, I'm very quickly to weasel my way back into that annoying little brother out pulling pranks. And I think as I get a little older, that would blossom into the annoying little brother who starts to grow a tiny bit of a crush on the sister's friend with Arya, and from pranks turning to a little bit more of like little flirtatious gestures as I get a little old, partially to annoy Willow, or partially because I'm starting to get a little bit of a crush on Arya.
I will be honest with you. I don't. Give me a charisma check.
Okay. Could I use entertaining because I'm like trying to make a fool of myself?
Yeah, we'll go entertaining. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Not like it's not your best skill.
21.
At some point, right? Like you are, you are definitely building this strong family connection with Willow, and you're also building. Not only are you the flirtatious bit with Arya, but you're also building a friendship. You're definitely making a fool of yourself. Like at one point, Willow will like pick up a couple rocks and like fucking throw them at you, right? Because you're being annoying.
Well, I'm a barrel roll right out of the way of those bad boys. Right into Willow's face and being like, can't hit this, and doing a little dance.
And as you're dancing, freaking Arya just loses it laughing. And, the stories eventually do come out. What they went through was tragic and hard for you to even understand. Like, the things they talk about are not things that happen in the Storytellers Grove.
To hear so close makes it real, not a story anymore.
But it is still a story. And as you remember Florist saying, even the most tragic story is still a story.
I think outside of like when we're telling the story, Les really tried to keep it very lighthearted, but it's very hard. Just trying to keep that off their mind. So he's always telling stupid stories, very big exaggerations, jokes about himself, always honing his craft in a way, trying to be like that distraction and that escape from it.
Right. And you are very, very successful. There comes a point in time, you're about 17. So it's been, 4 years since they've returned?
Yep, okay.
Willow has really taken to returning to her home. Arya less so, right? She wasn't born here. She doesn't have those years before to kind of fall back into. But she's definitely better than she was. She's no longer stammering so much. She's still very much, anytime someone asks her for help, even before you can get up, she's on her feet and helping.
Yep.
Willow, definitely still gets up, but it's more in the same pace as you.
Yeah.
One day, you find Arya at the entrance to the grove, just looking out. She looks like she's deep in thought.
Yeah, I would approach her. At this point, I announce when I approach, if I see they're not paying attention from quite a bit of ways, just call out to them softly, Arya, as I walk up. Arya, how are you doing? Deep in thought, I see.
I am. Your home has been quite kind and quite lovely. I'm just not sure I'm just not sure if this is my mom.
I see. Home is an odd place. It's a place, it's a feeling, it's a story. So maybe your story isn't here, but know that the Grove always will accept you as so it is.
And it is a wonderful place. I'm not sure if I'm leaving yet. I'm not sure what where my story is. And I'm just not sure. And she's sitting kind of on this, like, not quite a bench, but many people have sat here before. It's kind of like this tree that is kind of laid down, and lots of people sit here. Through the generations, it has almost become a bench. It is not truly a bench.
At that point, I just sit down next to Arya and look off at the end of the village too. I know that over these years, I've come to love you being in stories.
I have also grown to enjoy you being in my story as well. And she puts her hand on your lap. This is the first time you have ever seen Arya initiate physical contact.
He has a bead bracelet he made from some of the beads and the flowers from the first night. He would put it in his hand and slowly grab Arya with the bead in his hand, and then clasp his other hand on top of her and say, in case your story doesn't end here, have this to remember the Grove and remember me.
She says, I'm not leaving yet. I would like to see what happens with our story.
I would let go of the top of my other hand and have it put the bracelet on her, and then just actually grab her hand.
She holds your hand, and it is obviously a big deal for her.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, right? But she doesn't talk. She just kind of, in her thoughts, she's sitting here holding your hand and just enjoying the quiet, enjoying the warmness of having you with her.
I think I would sit there for a second, and then it would get to me what's happening, and then the little bit of the embarrassment would start to kick in. Probably the horns would start getting a little hot, and I would probably blabber out a crappy version of the same story I said the first night we met, and not much better than the night I said the first time, to try to... Cause it's great silence to her, but it very quickly became awkward silence for me because I don't know how to handle that this is happening. So I tell a very cheesy version of the same story.
And she laughs, and she squeezes your hand a bit. She very much enjoys this story. Not too much longer after you finish the story, you hear an almost panicked cry of your name from Fern.
Okay.
And obviously, when this happens, like, Arya's hand jumps from yours, and she stands up really quickly and turns to face Fern.
Yeah, I would do the same.
Fern is just like, we have to go to Reginald's. We have to go to Reginald's.
I would look at Arya and say, I will see you soon, and run with my mother.
Over the past 7 years, Reginald, his health has been declining. He was an old satyr when you were born.
Yeah.
And that was 17 years ago. With that being said, when you get there, you see Rose, you see Fern, you see your mother's brother, River. You see quite a few people that you know to be Reginald's family. You see Reginald propped up in a bed, resting in the pillows. He says, Where is Lesh?
I would step over and I would, the same way he would probably like from my age, like ruffle my hair and like mess with my horns. I'd knock horns with him actually, because I'd lightly knock horns with him, and I grab his hand and I'm right here, pup. I'm right here.
Les, you're growing to be quite the storyteller, and I am so proud to see you. I have something that I want to give to you.
I've only become as good as I have because I have you.
He has this like hand-sized chest that's really small, and he hands it to you, and he says, "It is my hope that one day you will be the best of all of us. I want you, once you feel that you are ready, to go out and find more stories and bring them back to us."
I would take the chest close to me. I will bring the stories back. I will become the best of us. I will tell stories that the world will hear. And at that point, I have a picked when I used to draw as a kid with him that I had kept one of Grandpa Tommy's stories of him on his lap. And I take that out and put that with him. First story started with you. My last story that I tell will be in your name.
Don't forget that the best storytellers also have their own to tell. Make it be one that you can tell me when we see each other again.
I would silently nod him in the eyes, and then like silent acceptance after that.
And surrounded by his family and the love and the stories that are told, each of you tell a story. River tells of learning with Reginald, learning the best places to find berries and the best places to fish. Rose tells of when she was learning to bake and when her monstrosities, as she describes them, and Reginald would still try it, no matter what it smelled like, no matter how bad it was, he at least took one bite. And Fern tells of learning to cook from Reginald, and how in the beginning, Reginald always told her that the smallest things was always remembering to respect the things she was making, even if no one else would, and to always push forward on her dream. Willow is there as well.
When the stories start to be told, I would go stand next to Willow and like just rest my head on her shoulder as like the stories are being told, and just a few like silent tears are rolling down Lesh's cheek as he's smiling and laughing to the stories.
Willow tells a story that it's not one that she has shared before, and it doesn't necessarily focus on Reginald. She tells of being in a cage surrounded by 6 others, and she tells of telling a story that she heard from Reginald and looking at each person's reaction to Reginald's story. And she tells about how each person smiles for the first time in weeks. She tells that this is something that she used to do nightly, was she would tell one of Reginald's stories, and that Reginald gave each of them the strength to go on for another day.
Yeah, Lesh at that point would just squeeze her hand just to let her know that he's there for her.
Yep. Everyone, he even smiles to Willow's story because his life had meaning outside of the grove. His stories will continue on somewhere else.
Yeah.
Farther reaching than he ever expected. Surrounded by his family, surrounded by the stories. Do you have a particular story that you tell?
It would be the same story of the one I drew, which is when I was young. I sat on Grandpa's lap by the fire one night. he had told me of some of his first adventures. He had left the grove with his grandfather before, and they were traveling to some mountain. And in these mountains, they met a giant troll who grandfather, crazily enough, didn't have to fight. He simply took out a scrap of paper and read a few lines of his story. And out came a beautiful, beautiful, vibrant light that stopped the troll dead in his tracks. And Grandpa told me the story time and time again. And every time he did, he would add different details as I grew older to really show me how a story can be told. I hope to one day have the same cadence and flow as you, Grandpa, to tell stories again and again, and every time make them interesting and new.
He smiles, right? And he points to this bound book. Most books in the Grove, they're rare. A lot of you all are oral storytellers. Some of you write them down so that you can make them even better as you tell them each time. This book not only has a spine, but also a latch on it. And he will tell you, I want you to take that with you when you leave.
I would take that, and in the same place where I put the treasure, very close to me, I have it on me. I would like run my fingers over it, kind of inspect it, and just kind of like embrace it, knowing it's very crazy to me to see him giving a bound book. So I take it very dearly and gingerly and hold it close to me.
As the day goes on and stories continue to flow, we're not going to go into every story that's told. He does eventually pass away, surrounded by the love of his family and the power of seeing his own legacy.
At this point, it kind of starts opening up to other people and some sort of like more not processions, but like kind of like saying goodbye to everyone. He was kind of like the head, so I'm guessing there's a way for everybody to like say goodbye.
Yeah, so there have been very few people that actually come into the house to say goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
His true goodbye will be the first dinner after his passing.
Okay.
After he dies, there's this older than you satyr comes in, and he says, if you will give me my time, I will prepare his body. The pyre is already being built.
Okay. Before we do that, I would just find Arya, because I would want to be with her during the pyre ceremony.
Arya is hanging around outside. She didn't want to be too far from what was going on. Mm-hmm. You actually find that a lot of people, instead of going inside and interrupting what was going on, they would talk to her a little bit and then go about their day.
Yeah. Okay.
Because she has earned the respect of everyone. Everyone does care for her as well. She is treated just as well as Lez and his family.
When I would step outside, I would just step beside her and silently hold her hand and just kind of be silent for a second after that.
Mm-hmm. And you look out, and unlike the normal fire for dinner, which is normally like it's a large fire, but this is like 4 to 5 times its size.
Yep.
And eventually, dinner is still made. Rose, River, and your mother obviously have not made anything for this.
Yep.
Everyone kind of picks up what cannot be done.
Lez may have actually made the mushroom and leeks that day. I think he would have done that with Arya as a way to like get out of his own head. And
Arya definitely comes with you when you offer it up for her to come. She very much looks for any opportunity that she can to help you.
Yeah, okay.
And then that night, River will light the pyre. And Reginald's seat is left empty. And everyone tells stories all night of Reginald. And this is not your first funeral. I mean, this is the first one was like in your family.
Mm-hmm.
This is a celebration of life.
Yep.
Obviously, there are tears. Obviously, there are smiles, there's laughter. There is the roller coaster of emotion that is a storyteller's life.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, it is not easy for anyone. Now, as things kind of continue on, there is obviously a missing seat.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, that seat at the head of the table is filled by the next oldest person. She is she's not quite Reginald's age. Wasn't even Reginald's age when you were born, but she is a quite elderly satyr.
Okay.
You know her to be named Maple.
Maple, okay.
Sorry, I had to find the card for Maple.
No, you are good. I think that one of the few nights where Les doesn't actually share a story when they're going around and instead just listens to all the stories. I think how it goes is everybody else tells stories and the family doesn't have to, stand up. They get to just listen after telling the stories together in the home.
Definitely. It is a long night, but every night comes to an end.
Mm-hmm.
The sun will eventually shine, and life does start to come to a new, circle. And do you ever open the chest that Reginald gave you?
I don't know. Probably open that when I've made it and I've started telling stories.
Okay.
I want to make that feather into a damn quill.
You see the little note I added there.
Good to know. That's perfect. Oh, that in my head, what I was thinking, that was going to work great.
Yep. Again, Arya is never far from you.
Mm-hmm.
At this point. You guys help your mother make the leeks. You guys help Rose do whatever sweets she's going to make for dinner. You guys help River in the field, because that's actually where River does most of his work, is growing some of the foods and stuff. That he grows the mushrooms and the leeks and a lot of the wheat that Rose uses as well. I think it's not too long until you see Arya looking to the exit of the grove more and more and more.
Yeah.
And I think it's not long until Fern comes to you and she asks, "It won't be long, will it?"
Deep sigh, deep breath in. No, don't think it will. Each day, farther and farther into the grove, I see her looking.
Why don't you go with her?
I don't know if I'm ready. I want to tell stories like Grandpa. I want to help the village, but I want to be there. I want to be here. I can't decide, and I feel if I were left, I would quickly be back and quickly become a chain holding her here, and I don't want to be an anchor.
Then why don't you go with her? It is your dream. It is my dream. It was your grandfather's dream to see you go out and experience the world for what it is. There is more outside of this grove. I have something that I was going to give you the day that you left, but I think maybe it's better now for me to give it to you. Out of her pocket, she fishes out this almost fist-sized chunk of quartz.
Yeah.
She hands it to you. As you're holding it in your hand, you feel like it is warm to the touch. It is warmer than just this is sitting in someone's pocket.
I would take it, and I want to live the dream, but I'm afraid what if I'm not good enough to make a story?
She says, "You already make stories." Of course. Failure is always a story.
I think with that, I would flash back to Florence when I was a kid, jumping up and down for stories, and him telling just that even the most tragic tales can tell a great story. hold the stone again and look at my mom. You're right, mother. It is time. It is time for me to go. I love you. And I love the grove. And I would take her into a deep embrace and I would say, I will tell a great story. I will become a great story and I will return to you, mother. And I will return to this grove as one of the greatest storytellers to have ever lived.
I look forward to that, she says. Obviously, like, she has tears in her eyes.
Tears definitely are starting to flow from Lesh's eyes at that point. Holds a little tighter, trying to like gather himself, so he's crying in her shoulder for a second, and then when he gathers himself, lets go slightly and just like embraces her shoulders and like squeezes them. It's like it's gonna be okay.
And she says the same thing back to you. It will be okay. We will be here. Obviously, the grove is not going to go anywhere. We will grow, and when you return, we will have stories, and you will have stories. And you will have new stories for the grove to tell as well.
You better have a pot mushroom and leek stir fry ready for me when I get back.
I always do.
And I think at that point, Lesh wouldn't be able to say goodbye. So he would give another squeeze and just turn, start walking away. Just never been able to say goodbyes after saying goodbye to Grandpa.
I don't think anyone pushes you for goodbyes. And I don't think anyone, like, obviously, like, everyone sees you and everyone wishes you well.
Mm-hmm.
As you're getting your stuff ready to leave.
Yeah, I'd probably want to stay for one last dinner. I would probably tell one last story, though, before I leave.
Right. Do you have a story prepared? Or is it just going to be, I tell a story?
I mean, I have an idea of what I want to do, I think. I'd stand, and the grove has done great things for me. I have learned how to harvest fields for the great bounty from river. I have learned to cook and to help those from my mother Fern. Rose has taught me every way to steal a treat from her kitchen, and I would not be the person I am today ready to leave this grove without all of us. I am so excited to come back to the grove that I leave behind. It is with a heavy heart that I am leaving. It is with a excited heart, though, that I go to this new adventure and that I turn this page to the next chapter.
And you get not one clap. You get a single clap from everyone.
Mm-hmm.
They all knew that you were going to leave. They all have been waiting for you to leave. Like, a lot of them have been expecting this since the day your grandfather died. Obviously, they're not going to tell you to leave. Well, I guess technically your mother did. But they've all been waiting for it. Everyone brings you some small thing. One of the people that you have been quite close with. Not your direct family, but like one of the other families.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Ricky. Rickety. God, I wrote that out as I wanted it said. And I still almost called him Ricky. You see Rickety, and he gives you a harmonica. And someone else brings you like this little hand lute that you can play with one hand. Someone else brings you like this weird looking disguise, but no one says goodbye. Everyone says, I'll see you again.
And I would respond with stories to tell.
And everyone smiles. When you leave, Arya does come with you.
Okay.
She's been looking for an excuse to go and has had you as the reason to stay. Now you are going.
Bags were packed, ready.
Willow and her have a long hug. They have been through so much together. bits and pieces, you can kind of piece together what happened.
Yeah.
They have been through so much together. But even Willow says, I will see you again.
Stories to tell. I would give her a hug, and then just as for Grandpop, I would also have a small drawing of the night we first came back. And it's a little bit better at this point, so it's the three of us sitting, luau's on, and the pastry exploding. Oh.
the soup.
Yep, the soup exploding all out. So I leave her that drawing, and with stories to tell, and then that's where I would take my leave from Willow.
Eventually, Arya has been outside the grove. So as soon as you guys start to leave, it's kind of weird. When you guys were in the grove, you took care of her.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you've left, she very much takes care of you. Whether it's finding the better place to lay down for the night, eventually she does lead you to a small port town. And eventually she does find you guys a ship, because she wants to go and find one of the other 7. She wants to go and find an Urcal named Mabel. But she thinks that they might be on Arctic. That is because there's a wonderful grove of Urcal. Like there's a tree city in Artis full of Urcal.
Okay.
She's very much looking forward to finding her again, because she was another one that went through everything, and she wants to kind of check in on everyone.
Yeah, okay.
But
where you go, I shall follow. I would follow you across every sea to check on every person you ever need. As long as I have you by my side, I know the story shall be a smooth ride.
She laughs and chuckles at the rhyme. She no longer cuts herself off. She lets herself enjoy, unlike when they first returned. And you do travel the world. You guys do find a Captain Milo who will take you from place to place. Though you do find some of his tactics interesting, because when he leaves, his flag will change frequently depending on where he docks. He will use an Artith flag to dock in Deepport. He will use a Bona flag to dock in Bona. He will use a Caspa flag to dock in Caspa. You guys do kind of travel the world for a year, checking in on these people. You guys do find a Kleppen and a dwarf and an elf that have all kind of found their own home.
Mm-hmm.
All across the world. Some of them in Octicia, some of them in one of them even in Greystone in Dryford. But it has been, you are now 22. You've been gathering stories along the way. Yes, I know I'm kind of telling a story of what's happening. It's just kind of moving some things along.
Yep.
You guys are in Deepport at the moment. And Captain Milo is like, we will be we'll be here for a little while. But we'll also be back at certain times. And Arya says, I have heard who has grown into, you guys have been traveling for like 3 years now. You guys have grown rather close. Your relationship is bigger, and
we're Facebook official.
Yeah, definitely. Right. But you guys are kind of staying in this tavern in Deepport. And she says, It's wonderful. Mabel works as an aide for one of the leaders of Artith. It's quite wonderful. I actually heard a rumor that she's going to be here today. She's going to be in Deepport today.
Really? That's wonderful news. We should meet her. I would love to finally meet your last companion.
It will be quite wonderful to meet her. And then out in the distance, you hear a ringing of bells. You hear a bunch of panicked shouts. And there's a name that is called. And you hear, the Windwalkers are raiding. And as soon as you hear that and you look to Arya, all of the blood leaves her face.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. Absolutely everything leaves. Like, you remember 12 years ago when she returns. You remember one of the people that bought her.
Yeah. I would instantly grab her hand and just... We're together. It's okay. We will get through this.
But they're here. They're here. They're here, and there are two of us that have escaped that once. They're here. I want to go find Mabel. I want to go find her now.
We can. We have to be quick. What do you know? Where was she last?
I don't. We'll go look. At the fancier side. Maybe we'll find. Maybe we'll take a look.
We can't stay for long if we don't find her.
I
know you need to save her, but we need to also be okay of ourselves if we want to save her.
I know, but okay, we'll go looking. And you guys go through a deep port, checking lots of different places. And every now and then, you guys will see Urkal, and every time she sees an Urkal, Arya gets excited and then disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to hear it. Loud, cacophonous booms of cannons striking this town. Deepport.
Arya, we can't keep looking any longer. We have to go. It's getting too close. I'm sorry. I wanted to find her too, but I need you to be safe.
And she starts to cry, and she's like, "We were so close. I guess we should go to the gates."
Yes, we need to be alive to figure out if she has or hasn't made it. So let's go.
So you guys rush to the gates, and as the gates get within sight, a cannonball strikes them, collapsing the wall and blocking your retreat. And Arya, in like a panic, starts looking around. And like obviously there are lots of people also doing the same thing, trying to find an avenue of escape. And then you hear a sound leave Arya of just like surprise and shock and awe. She sees a wind elemental. And she says, No, he can't. Why is he here while they're bombing the city? No. And then she takes notice of the wind elemental is actually talking with two Urkal women. She's like, that's Mabel. You see that the wind elemental has a crossbow and has it aimed at Mabel. As he pulls the trigger, not Mabel, but the other Urkal that was there with Mabel pushes Mabel out of the way, but is struck with the bolt herself. And there's just a cry of misery that leaves this Urkal as another explosion drops very, very close to you guys, making the area hard to stand. Arya is just frozen in place in fear as she looks at this wind elemental. What are you doing?
Oh shit. I'm panicking as well. Yeah, so seeing her drop, I think I would grab Arya by the shoulder and be like, we need to go right now. And then I want to try, if I could, to use the Briar Whip chant as a way to try to grab Mabel as I'm running, and try to use it to like not hurt her, but as a way to like try to grab Mabel and pull her away.
I will 100% let you kind of yoink this Urukau to help her get away. And Arya does start running with you. But you hear this voice, and he says, "Oh, there are two of you. There are two of you that have escaped me. I've been looking." Hearing that, Arya says, "Run. Take her and run."
I think I look in her eyes in that moment, and I know Arya. I've always known Arya. Yeah, this is not the time to argue. She's gonna put me and Mabel first.
She puts everyone first. She has always put everyone else first.
Yeah, I look at her eyes. I quickly grab her wrist where the bracelet is, and I just kind of like spin it one last time. I love you.
I love you too, Lesh. And this is the first time she has ever gotten your name right. Every other time it has been Lez.
Actually, no, I think, okay, what I do when I would touch the bracelet, when I spin the bracelet, I would take a single purple bead off of it and like that small moment and keep that with me as I run to like remember, and then take Mabel and run.
You run and run and run. Eventually, give me an awareness check. Perceiving will work.
What are you perceiving?
I knew you were going to ask about perceiving. I happen to know your skills. You don't know. You don't necessarily hear her anything that would lead you to believe she's dead. You also don't believe she's not. You also don't hear anything to believe that she's
probably at this point. That definitely like hears. My hooves are probably like almost like completely beat. I just ran as long as I could. I look at Mabel, and then I try to speak, and just nothing comes out. I just start crying harder.
Mabel says, I don't know who you are, but you have saved my life today. Between you and Queso, you have saved my life today. And was that Arya?
It was Arya.
Arya would have went back with him.
The more I fought, the more I would have put us more in danger, and the more she would have wanted us to run. And
no, you don't understand what I'm saying. The only reason Agnes wouldn't have continued to follow us would be Arya went back with him.
I think that would click. That's a fate worse than what he assumed was maybe death. I think it would just silently cry more to realize it, kind of starting to realize it, feeling even more defeated than before.
I have to take Queso home. She's done so much for me. I can't even begin to tell you. But maybe I can find some. I have to take Queso home. I'm sorry. I can't believe.
Don't be sorry. Arya would have wanted you to live, and live for her. I will do everything in my power to go back for her. I don't care if it kills me. I'd rather my story end here than spend another page without her.
The Windwalkers do have a home. Well, not really a home. They like to go to Monster. That's all I can tell you. I'm sorry. I have to take Queso's
Thank
corpse
you.
home.
You know, no need to be sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. I know how hard it is.
She treated me like I was her own child, even though I didn't have a family.
Arya became a part of mine, and I know what that's like. Go pay respects and be with your family now.
And once the bombarding stops, because I mean, there are 5 ships in the bay that have not stopped unloading cannon fire on this city, right? The cannon fire has not stopped.
Yeah, I'd probably be reading through the book of stories, just trying to pass the time.
But eventually the cannon fire does stop. And eventually the 5 ships do leave. In the distance, you see the name, the Sea's Jewel, on one of the ships. Eventually, Mabel will go back into the city. And eventually, a lot of people go back into the city. Mabel, unless you go with her, at which point I do know what Mabel does.
No, I don't. I think I would probably avoid it because I know they have to go back to where Arya. So I wouldn't. I try to avoid that.
I think eventually it takes a while for you to find someone to go to Monster for you. Actually, Captain Milo will actually be back. I mean, he didn't know that the Windwalkers were going to attack Deepport, right? But he would have heard and he would have came back. Though this is like a week later.
Yeah, I probably would have been in the local inn, kind of just telling stories, trying to keep myself distracted. The stories don't have the same hit they used to. They're a little somber. Even the grand adventures just don't really feel very grand when I tell them at this point. Milo would get back and I would tell him, seeing a familiar face, probably would cry again for the first time since it happened.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely like Milo is saddened, right? Like he has ferried you two around the world for like 3 years off of the entertainment that you have like provided everyone. But with that being said, he will take you to Monster. He takes a lot of people from Deepport to Monster, right? There are a bunch of people, and you will eventually make your way through Monster. And while you're traveling, you try to remember anything that Arya may have told you about the Windwalkers. And you remember that maybe the Dockmaster will know something about the Windwalkers.
I would go to Milo and thank you for all the travels you have given me and Arya. I think this may be our last trip together for a while. At least until you can ferry me and Arya together again. It is hard to be on the ship where our everything blossomed. Cannot thank you enough for all the safe harboring and safe travels you have given us, and will hopefully give us again one day when I am able to save her.
He says, I appreciate you. I have grown to enjoy your time aboard my ship, and I hope that eventually you can find yourself back on my ship. I do enjoy your stories. Most of the boys seem to enjoy them as well. I do need to get going. That Urkel over there is been trying to get my attention. And in the distance, you do see, like still on the ship, is an Urkel that you've passed a few times on the ship. He seems to have kind of been helping the captain with some weird navigation things that happened. With that being said, he'll be like, tell your stories, my boy. They are wonderful, even if they are sad.
Or even tragedy can be a great story. And I would take my leave.
as you start to leave, I mean, who better to know if there's a Windwalker somewhere nearby than the Dockmaster?
Make my way to the Dockmaster.
You come to this panther-like Katek. He's like, "Hey, what do you want?"
Hello, my name is Lez. You can call me Lez. I have come looking for the Windwalkers.
The Windwalkers, you say? I mean, do you see the gem of the sea in Dock? No, the gem ain't here. Like, the Maiden's Glory ain't here either. Neither is the Golden Globe, Matriarch's Sail, or the World's End. Those are the 5 ships of the Windwalkers. You see them anywhere nearby? No, you don't see them nowhere. And with that, I would like to say thank you all for listening to our prologue for Lesh, or Les. Depends on who you talk to. We hope that you enjoyed listening and would love it for you to let us know. We are on Instagram, Facebook, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Threads, and even TikTok. Links to our link tree can be found in the description of this episode. But again, I'd like to say thank you all for listening. Thank my players for playing. And
thank you for running it. Thank you for being the MC. I had a blast, and I look forward to seeing Lez's adventure fold out a little bit more.